Trump supporter Roger Stone, who is author of the books The Clintons, War on Women, as well as Jeb and the Bush Crime Family. Good morning, Roger. How are you?
Exhausted and happy.
Yes, all at the same time. Where are you right now? I know you're going to be traveling quite a bit, but where are you going to be stationed here on Election Day?
I'm actually, right now, I'm in Detroit on my way to Austin, Texas, where I'll be doing election night commentary with Infowars.com and my friend Alex Jones.
How do you think this thing is?
This makes me the moderate on the program.
That's good. If I was on the program, I'd be the socialist without question, right? Looking at this election today, and it's been over 500 days since both candidates announced they were running, just talk about these key states that are up for grabs. You say you're in Michigan right now. Michigan appears to be in play. What's the vibe you're getting on the ground in Michigan? Is there a chance Donald Trump can win that state?
Surprisingly, this state does appear to be in play. I think Trump has an appeal to white union members who are traditional Democrats, of course, in this state. The previous Republicans, say Mitt Romney even, who had some roots in the state, did not have. And there is some survey research that I looked at last night out of Trafalgar, which is a pretty reputable outfit doing online polling with a solid methodology, showing Trump moving actually into a commanding position here. So if there is a surprise tonight, I think it will be Michigan.
To get to Michigan, how important is Florida, though? That's still the big state with 29 electoral votes.
Well, I assume that in order to get to 270, Donald Trump needs Ohio and Florida and North Carolina, and then it gets tough. He needs Nevada and New Hampshire or Michigan. Either one of those combinations could work. Nevada, I think, is problematic. Frankly, Trump has run one of the worst campaigns in modern political history in the state, and the crew there is really left over from the primary, these old Americans for Prosperity folks. Nice people, just don't know anything about politics and actual getting elected. So I'm disappointed that with the campaign there. On the other hand, if we have a tide, even Nevada could sweep for Trump.
How about New Hampshire, where both candidates campaigned quite vociferously over the last several weeks?
Well, we get to see how good Corey Lewandowski really is, because these are his people. I mean, I think Trump has done a great job in the state, but I am concerned about the mechanics. The way I look at it, the Clintons have a well-oiled political machine. They've been through this a number of times. They really understand the technology. Trump's campaign is more of a grassroots guerrilla operation, but may make up with intensity for what the Clintons lack in terms of the intensity of their support. In other words, the greatest machine in the world can't get votes out because people don't want to vote for your candidate. Whereas I think the Trump people have an easier job finding favorables and getting them out if they can do so mechanically.
Roger, do you think that Trump could pull it out in New Hampshire, given the issue of Obamacare? It's really hurting, Americans all across this country. They're seeing these premiums spike, care reduced, choices reduced. We were just on the phone with Chris Sununu, who's running for governor up there, and he says Obamacare is basically crushing the middle class in New Hampshire. Is that message from Trump resonating in the state?
I think it is. I think that could be one of the great subtexts of tonight. It's interesting that both the Republican candidates for governor and for the U.S. Senate in New Hampshire appear to have pulled out to leads. This is good news for Donald Trump, in my opinion. On the other hand, look at the Senate race in Nevada. Joe Heck, Republican, now trailing. If you look at his polling, you determine the reason he's trailing is his failure to embrace Donald Trump. His drop is among conservatives and Republicans who are no longer enthusiastic about his candidacy. So it's kind of a reverse of what you see in New Hampshire.
Roger, when you look forward to this election, obviously we've heard so much that Donald Trump, the message has been that it's a rigged system. Bernie Sanders talked about it being a rigged system, and we found out that through WikiLeaks that it was rigged against Bernie Sanders throughout the primary. In terms of voters, can we expect any problems at the voting polls today at some point? Do we expect that there could be some, I don't want to go as far as violence, but some sort of negative vibes positives from either campaign going forward?
Well, as you probably know, the Democratic parties in Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada sued me and Donald Trump and the Trump campaign and StopTheSteal.org, which is the organization that I'm working with to do neutral exit polling in key precincts so that we can turn around and compare those exit poll results to actual polling place results, actual machine results, to see if there is a discrepancy within the machines. I've written a lot about this, and I think it is a lot of evidence that the machines were rigged against Bernie Sanders. There's an excellent study out of Stanford University that makes that case. So I'm going to be looking for that. I'm happy to say the U.S. Supreme Court last night let stand a ruling that said that Donald Trump and Roger Stone did not have any plans to intimidate voters, that was a canard put forward by the Democrats in court as kind of a PR offensive, I guess.
What should the message be to the voters in Ohio? You did have that court ruling earlier, which was good for the Trump campaign. But what should the message be today in Ohio? What does the Trump campaign look to do in Ohio to make sure that the vote gets out?
Well, I do think that they are being undermined by the Republican machine there under the control of Governor John Kasich. The good news is that Trump's support in the state is larger and broader than the Republican Party. I expect in northeastern Ohio he will run substantially better than Rob Portman, for example, the Senate candidate. So it is true that under the lower courts in Ohio initially ruled against us in terms of our Election Day activities. We appealed that immediately to the Sixth Circuit. It reversed the local court, and now the Supreme Court has let that decision stand. What that means is that we will have viable exit polling outside of key precincts so that we can test whether the machines have been tampered with. No one disagrees that technologically the machines are easy to rig, so it's a question of whether anyone in the process would dare do so. It's a democratic exercise. We're using volunteers. Let's see how it works out. I'm looking forward to it.
And what's the process for that to do exit polling?
Well, you only speak to voters after they have voted. You are only interested in a sample of voters who have voted. It's simple 3 questions. Did you vote? Yes, I did. Did you vote 4 years ago? That's kind of a warm-up question. Then you review this year's presidential ballot with them. You will tabulate those. Then within about an hour after the polls close, you will test them against actual machines. Now, you would have to have some adjustments because you won't get 100% voluntary participation, but you can't really work in this as a volunteer pollster if you're going to wear a Trump T-shirt or a Jill Stein hat or a Gary Johnson button. I mean, this is meant to be a neutral exit poll with a true scientific, methodologically solid sample.
That's right. And then with respect to people who did early voting, they submitted their ballots, and then today those officials are supposed to be feeding the ballot machines. How can voters be sure that their vote made it to the machine today and it's not going to get stacked, abandoned on somebody's desk?
Well, it's a legitimate concern. I mean, you've had numerous complaints about machine malfunction already, particularly in the state of Texas, where there's been a disproportionate number of complaints of people who insist that they voted for Trump and that their vote was tabulated for Clinton. A group of citizens actually went to court in that state in an attempt to get the machine to move to paper ballots. Paper ballots, by the way, now in fraud and common use in Europe. Europe has trashed the computerized machines. They're no longer used in any of the major countries in Europe because of their easy hackability and their unreliability.
We're chatting with Trump supporter Roger Stone here on Boston Herald Radio. The books are The Clintons' War on Women, as well as Jeb and the Bush Crime Family. Before we let you go, Roger, we know we're getting you at the airport on a flight to Austin, Texas. Again, thank you so much for joining us. You're not officially part of the campaign, but on the outside looking in, what should Donald Trump's campaign have done better over the last 16 months that would have given him a better chance to win tonight?
I would like to have seen a more aggressive effort to sell his economic vision, particularly in the African American and Hispanic communities. I think he could have offset some of the negatives around immigration had you been more forthright about the need to bring jobs and opportunity and prosperity to that community. When it comes to African Americans, I think Trump had an unprecedented opportunity. I saw polling that indicated these voters had no affinity for Hillary Clinton. But when you spend your time talking about stop and frisk or the Central Park Five, instead of talking about your vision for economic growth and black capitalism, I think you've done yourself a disservice.
All righty.
Excellent, right. And then I would have liked for African Americans to be reminded more about the crime bill that President Bill Clinton put into place, which incarcerated a record number of African Americans unfairly.
I agree with that. I also, frankly, would have liked to see Donald Trump embrace Danny Williams, who is, in fact, the abandoned son of Bill Clinton, banished by Hillary, as I believe a paternity suit in Arkansas will show relatively soon.
Alrighty, Roger Stone, thank you so much for your help throughout this campaign. Don't be strangers. We've got lots to talk about after the election. Have a safe flight to Austin, Texas, and we'll see what happens tonight. It is going to be monumental either way.
Well, I'm sorry Delta Airlines chose to compete with you a little bit, but I hope you could hear me. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Perfect. Thank you.